Okay, let's talk about leaks. A lot of people will call and say, hey, I've got a leak in my pool. I think it's the main drain. I've got a leak in my pool. I think it's the inlets. Some places to look for leaks, and I'll start off by saying it's very seldom in the main drain, and it's very seldom in the inlets. Most pool companies, including ours for sure, pressure test all that stuff before we pour concrete and make sure all the plumbing is watertight. However, there's always a chance that you could have a leak in the gasketing where the liner meets the main drains or the liner meets the skimmer. The best way to check is take a screwdriver and use your forearm as kind of a method of feeling how strong how much you can turn. If you can barely turn it with average strength, more than likely your faceplate is tight, the screws are tight on the faceplate, and more than likely you don't have a leak there. The most common place to find a leak is probably in a liner pool, is probably in the vinyl somewhere. Depending on how much water you're losing a day, may be an indicator to where the leak might be. If you're losing an inch or so a day, a common place for a leak would be somewhere in the area where the wall meets the floor. If you have a hole in your liner right up against the wall, and the liner's hard pressed against the wall, it's really hard to make it lose a lot of water. However, if it's closer to where the wall meets the floor, that's the first place that the water can start to channel and gain momentum leaving your pool. So the first thing I would do is I'd get my kids in there is what I would do with a mask and make a game called Find the Hole. Make sure they don't have any sharp objects so they don't create the hole while they're doing that to win the prize. But if you follow the perimeter of the pool looking for anything odd that's near a perimeter seam or anywhere in that area, anything odd like a moon shape. A lot of holes seem to have like a little partial moon shape, kind of a semicircle look. And basically looking for a dark spot in the liner. If you do find something like that, don't panic. That can be repaired underwater. You can do it, if you've got the right material with it, you can do it in about 30 seconds and you're back to playing again. Like I say, a common place is in the liner. Another place is in your returns where you can tighten the screws to see if that is a loose place. One way that you can look for leaks, if your eyes aren't that in tune to finding holes in liners, is you can use dye. If you have your water perfectly still, meaning cut your pump off and let it sit still for an hour or so, and then gently get in the water or go around the perimeter of the pool. Let's just say if you do think it's in the plumbing and you want to run a test, say on a particular water return or an inlet, you can take the dye and ease your hand down into the water and just some people use food coloring, and just squeeze a little bit of food coloring and then watch it. If you haven't stirred the water up much with your hand, if you're gentle with it, you'll see you'll see the leak. If there is a leak, you'll see it take the dye in with it, and that's a good indication that you have a leak in that particular area. Leaks at pool pumps are pretty easy to spot because you'll see the filter pad wet, and you can a lot of times just trace it back by just giving it the eye test. You see it on the concrete, and then you follow it up until you find the dry spot, so to speak. And that's a pretty easy way to find a leak at your filter system. Something that is very common that people think is a leak, but is not actually a leak. It's condensation at a heat pump. We have a lot of phone calls saying that their heat pump is leaking, and actually it's not leaking at all. It is just condensation coming out from the bottom of the heat pump, much like you'd see at a heating in your central heat and air unit on the side of your house. Except instead of it coming out of a pipe like on your central heat and air unit, it just comes out of the bottom of the heat pump. And I don't know why. I want the manufacturers to fix that and put it out of a pipe. My pet peeve for the day, and that's really all I can think of to tell you about leaks.